The sound of the gunshot echoes in the forest clearing around the guardhouse. All the colour has been stripped from Violette and Elisabeth's world, except the blood. That deep maroon splattered across the ground, their shoes turning blacker as it pools around the lifeless body of the soldier. The girls look at one another in shock, trying to catch their breath in true disbelief that they're both alive. The glow of the lamp from the forest path break them from their reverie.
Elisabeth, we have to go.
We can't go without the letter.
Elisabeth sprints towards the guardhouse. Violet turns to chase after her, but instead lurches forward and vomits, right next to the soldier's body. Elisabeth slams into the door of the guardhouse and throws it open. Without the letter, all of this was for nothing. She frantically scans the room. Its bare bones, a small cot, lit fireplace, rough-hewn wooden table with a pot, plate and cup stacked messily on top. A spare pair of boots and a rifle next to the door. There. A desk in the far corner, mostly empty, but a stack of mail, still untouched, sits on top. Elisabeth scoops up the envelopes and races back out the door. Violet dry heaves, but desperately tries to pull herself together. Elisabeth shoves the letters into her coat pocket with one hand and pulls hard on her sister's arm, hoisting her up.
Come on, let's go.
Violet gains her footing, takes a few deep breaths, and shakes her head ferociously as she struggles to right herself. Elisabeth, still clutching Violet's arm, guides them straight into the bushes, away from the path to town.
Run.
The girls bolt into the forest at breakneck speed, away from the oncoming guard. They don't look back. Elisabeth and Violet make it out of the forest and slow their pace as they approach the city. They try their best to be discreet, but there's no hiding the mess of dirt and blood and torn clothing. Elisabeth wobbles, tears stream down her face. Violet quickly pulls her aside in an alley off the street to try to calm her, out of sight of prying eyes.
It's over now. It's done.
Elisabeth can't even try to form words as the panic rushes through her from the inside out. Violet clutches her face to her chest, and Elisabeth cries and shakes uncontrollably.
Shh. You're okay.
Without the letter.
Breathe. Just breathe.
Elisabeth's shoulders shudder. She knows she's putting them at risk, but her efforts to regain control over her body are in vain.
Shh. Shh. It's all right. We did it for Mama.
Unbeknownst to Violet and Elisabeth, a young woman has been listening in to the entire exchange. She emerges from the hidden cellar entrance, just off the street. Subtle, controlled, and eagle-eyed, she's like a dark angel appearing from below, her red hair tucked under a black hat. Violet double-takes as she realises. This is the same girl from the alley, the night she put up the posters with Mama. The girl presses a finger to her lips, urging the girls not to make a noise. She furtively glances around the street, then jerks her hand at them curtly, motioning them to follow her down into the cellar steps. Elisabeth turns to Violet, silently questioning whether this is a good idea. Violet opens her mouth, but she cuts her off before she can speak. Shh. Don't say a word. The girl waves them into the cellar again. They hesitate. Your other option is almost certainly death. That's all it takes after that ordeal in the woods. The girls scramble in. She moves to follow them, but stops when she notices a bloody handprint on the wall of the alley that the girls left behind. She swiftly spits into her hand, smears away the handprint, and then scoops up a handful of dirt to rub in over top of it, completely covering the girls' tracks. The three young women reach the bottom of the cellar steps, the girl pulling the heavy wooden door shut behind them. She slides not one, but 2 deadbolts into the locked position. Then links a padlock through the loop, turns the key and drops it into her pocket. Elisabeth and Violet turn to one another, faces pale in silent terror. There's no getting out of here with that key in her pocket. The girl notices their petrified expressions and smirks at them. Relax. Come this way. She guides the girls past the stacks of barrels and crates, weaving through the variety of hanging herbs and garlic. At the back of the cellar, she uses her full body weight to push aside a crate. A small metal door with a grate over it is revealed. She presses a small buzzer next to the door. The heavy grate slides away, and she opens the door into a secret room. The space is surprisingly cozy. A mismatched mess of rugs cover the floor, bookshelves and several desks are pressed against the walls. A few lamps with scarves thrown over them and candles bathe the space in a warm glow. Across the room, a man listens intently to a radio along the wall while scribbling onto a notepad. He immediately leaps to his feet when he realises that the girl has brought 2 strangers into the room with her. He pushes his papers up to hide his face from the girl's view.
What the hell?
He peeks around the edge of the papers for just a moment.
Of course. It's you. What do you think you're doing?
It's fine. They're friends. The man spits on the floor. It's clear he's snarling behind his flimsy paper wall.
This isn't tea time. I've had it with your surprises. You're going to get us all killed.
She walks over to the man, swipes the papers from his hands, and stares at him directly in the eyes. Ignore him, ladies. He's the flighty type. It is very unbecoming in a man.
Kill yourself if you like, but leave me out of it.
She gives him a bland smile. The man snatches the papers back and storms out into the cellar area, slamming the door behind him. With the man gone, the girls are able to take in more of the room. The red-headed girl notices their gaze. It's a party every night.
Seems chaotic.
Exactly. She grabs a bottle from the bookshelf, pulls out 3 dirty glasses from the desk drawer, and pours the clear liquor into each. Here. This will help. The girl shoots hers like water. Violet smells the liquid warily and sips with a crinkled nose. Elisabeth takes a quick breath and shoots hers as well, but is in obvious pain despite her attempt to keep a straight face. The redhead raises her eyebrows in surprise and refills the glasses. I don't know what happened, and it's probably better for me that I don't, but based on the shock, blood, and bullet hole in your dress, you've had yourselves an unexpectedly violent night. So I need to know, was anyone following you? She gently touches the bullet hole near the bottom of Violet's dress. Violet winces in pain and looks at her leg in shock. She had no idea she'd been hit. Elisabeth immediately drops to the floor to get a closer look.
What?
Violet, oh my God.
It's just a graze. Luck was with you tonight. Sit. She dips a rag in the liquor and dabs the small wound. Did you see anyone following you?
No.
All right then. So, I know who you are, I know where you live, and I know your mother. Does she know where you are? Elisabeth leaps to her feet now in alarm, stepping close to her sister.
How do you know all that? Who are you?
I'm Iris. Your mother and I work with the same organisation.
What organisation?
I saw you that night Mama dropped off the posters, didn't I?
Elisabeth shoots Violet a confused look. Iris nods. You did.
You're a painter too?
No, but we work together. Does your mother know what you've been up to tonight?
No, we don't know where she is.
Ah, I see. Iris brings over a bucket with clean water and a bag filled with random articles of clothing. Here, scrub off all that blood and dirt and find something to wear. Quickly. Iris turns to clean up the glasses, liquor and bloodied rag. After a few cautious glances towards Iris's back, the girls do as they're told. They strip off the bloodied and muddy piece of clothing first. As she moves to take off her coat, Elisabeth feels the crinkled letters in her pocket. She pulls them out. They're splattered in blood. She offers them to Violet, who quickly conceals them. The girls finish cleaning up and pick through the contents of the bag for replacement clothing.
You have an accent. Where are you from?
You caught that. I need to be more careful. I was born in America. My mother brought me to Berlin as a child.
Why would she want to leave America?
She followed a man here to chase a dream. The corner of Elisabeth's mouth upturned slightly, but all he led her to was an early grave. The upturned corner just as quickly reverses direction.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're not. You don't know me, and you didn't know her. But you are kind to pretend. You get that from your mother. It's been a long time since she's died, but she's always with me.
I feel the same way about our father. It's like his spirit is always watching over us.
Iris turns to face her slowly, then leans toward her across the counter, staring steadily into her eyes for a long moment. No. Not like that. She left me the bar, and the talent to make money with it.
So you're a dancer?
singer, among other things. Elisabeth leans heavily against the desk. She's so exhausted she can hardly keep her eyes open. Iris checks her watch. Well, ladies, looks like time's up. I have Nazis to entertain, and I don't think you want to be here when they arrive, no? The girls shake their heads in agreement. Now, listen carefully. Go straight home, take the back roads, no stops along the way. Forget everything that happened tonight, including me. Don't even tell your mother about me. You won't like the consequences if they catch you and you talk about this place. And not because of the Nazis. You understand? The girls nod more solemnly this time. Elisabeth grabs Violet's hand.
We understand.
Good. This way. Iris points up to the bar and then puts a finger over her lips to reinforce the need for silence before leading them back through the hidden passage they came through. She unlocks each barrier, then pokes her head out of the cellar door to check that the coast is clear. Once confirmed, she waves the girls up the steps and gives one last curt nod before walking into the main entrance of the Schadenfreude bar. The girls briskly walk the opposite way, into the alley towards home. Elisabeth turns to try to catch a last glimpse of Iris, but Violet jerks her back round.
Don't look back. Mama will be waiting for us.
The sisters pull their coats close and put their heads down as they fade into the night. The door to the Fisher home opens into a dark kitchen as the two very tired sisters plod in. Elisabeth turns on the lights as Violet wrestles her way out of the borrowed clothing, suddenly claustrophobic. Elisabeth stands in the middle of the kitchen, listening to the quiet of the house.
She isn't here. I can feel it. She isn't here.
Violet moves swiftly from room to room, somewhat superstitiously, as if Maria will appear if she checks each space 3 times.
Mama?
She grows frantic as it sinks in. Despite all they'd done, all they'd gone through that night, it hadn't brought Maria back. Angry tears stream down Violet's face.
Mother? Mama?
Violet wipes her face quickly with balled fists. Elisabeth watches her sister's antics unfold for a moment, then flops down onto the carpet like a rag doll, too exhausted to move anymore.
I don't understand.
She pinches the bridge of her nose between her eyes, desperately trying to muster her last bits of energy to think. But then she gasps and sits up abruptly.
Did we get the letter? Vi, did we get the letter?
Oh my God. Yes, you gave it to me. Here.
She scrambles over to the pile of clothes she'd hastily discarded and turns out the pockets of her coat. A flurry of papers fall out. The pistol. Violet stiffens, but Elisabeth pushes it aside. She sits on the floor amongst the clothes and paper and grabs half of the letters to sort through. Violet takes the other stack. The girls read voraciously. Most seem like run-of-the-mill reports and orders, not what they're looking for. A crude drawing of a naked woman, worthless. Finally, Violet slows. This one is curious, typed on different paper and with a bizarre format.
This looks like gibberish. But it must be about her. Look!
Sparrow.
The girls both take their first real exhale of the night. Violet leans back on her hands and closes her eyes for a moment as the frenzied energy fades ever so slightly. Elisabeth scans through the letter again.
I have no clue what the rest of this means, though. It's some sort of code.
Before Violet can respond, she's interrupted by furious pounding at the door. The girls freeze. Elisabeth grabs the pistol as they both slowly rise to their feet. The knocking continues, impatiently. The sisters look at each other with wide eyes. Violet points to the gun, then raises her finger as if to say, "Stay ready," before responding.
Who is it?
The girls hold their breath. Elisabeth grips the pistol tightly.
It's me. Open the door.
Oh, thank God, Fritz.
Violet rushes forward to open the door. Both girls run and cling to him tightly, as though he is Jesus Christ himself come to save them. Fritz returns the embrace as he guides them inside the house. He takes a quick look up and down the street, then closes and locks the front door behind them. The sound of the lock at the door and the newfound safety of their cousin unleashes the floodgates. Both girls burst into tears and talk over one another in an attempt to explain everything that's happened. Fritz doesn't say a word as they spill the details, merely guides the girls to sit at the kitchen table, then turns on the dusty radio in the corner, turning up the volume so that the music intermixes with the hubbub of his young cousins, diluting their conversation for any potential listening ears. Fritz listens intently as they speak and pours 3 glasses of water before joining them at the table as they finish their story.
So we know we got the letter in time, but we still don't know where she went.
All right, let's just,
You have to find Mama, Fritz.
Yes, of course, we will, but first, we need to make sure you girls are kept safe.
Us? Why?
People will start asking about Maria. When they realize she's gone, with the way things are right now, we mustn't let them know anything is amiss. Do you understand? Nobody should think anything unusual is happening. Your mother simply had to rush to her very sick, elderly Aunt Ingrid's bedside. She's going to stay for a while to nurse her back to health, and we all hope that she will be home soon.
Will she? Will she, Fritzy?
I believe that she will. We have to believe that she will. But in the meantime, your safety is my priority. God must have sent angels to protect you tonight.
Fritz reaches out to grab both girls' hands and gives a comforting squeeze. They squeeze back, but the wheels start to turn in Violet's head.
How did you know
Know what?
to come here? That we needed you?
Elizabeth's eyes snap up to her sister's face. She makes a good point. They both look at their cousin now with a new sense of probing.
We didn't tell anyone before we went into the woods. How did you know to come here, Fritz?
Fritz pauses a moment, looks between the girls, choosing his words carefully.
I was sent word to check on you girls. I don't know exactly from whom, but I have my guesses.
The girls realise. Fritz is speaking in code. They nod to let him know they follow.
You work with them too? The same people Mama works with?
Girls, that's enough for one day. I'll stay here tonight.
But Fritz...
Go on. Get ready for bed. Everything is all right. You'll go to school in the morning and pretend like nothing happened. Yes?
The girls nod, still unsatisfied with Fritz's response, but too tired to push back. As they disappear to their rooms, Fritz, unhurried, starts to tidy the chaos of the home. He pockets Maria's letter, then scoops up the strewn clothes from the floor and puts them in a basket. He gathers the other papers from the ground where the girls had left them and makes his way to the living room. He quickly lights the fire and tosses the papers in, along with Violet's bloody bullet-holed dress. They ignite into flame. The edges of the papers blacken and crumble quickly into ash. Fritz returns to the kitchen. His eyes land on the pistol, sitting innocuously on the table amongst the placemats, glasses of water, and vase filled with dry flowers, as if it somehow absorbed his cousin's innocence as a trade for what they'd done. They'll never be the same. He shakes his head. Maria would be furious. Fritz takes the pistol to the sink where he expertly disassembles and cleans it. He tucks it into his robes as he walks back to sit by the fire. The music from the radio fades away as the host transitions into news updates.
We honor our brave men who courageously fought and lost their lives for the fatherland, for the pursuit of a purer, more prosperous Reich. Though we mourn their passing, we stand undefeated. We will not fail them.
The next morning, as she walks through the school courtyard and up the steps to greet her waiting friends, Violet feels as though all eyes are on her, as if her every step, every word, every breath is being monitored by an invisible Nazi soldier, just waiting for her to make one wrong move. Everything is different now. She feels stiff, out of place in her own body. Every word she says to her friends sounds like someone else's voice to her.
Good morning, everyone.
Her friends instantly notice Violet's awkwardness and jump at the chance to tease her.
Oh, and a very good morning to you, Frau Violet.
Who are you and what have you done with why? Somebody call the Gestapo. We have a spy here.
The girls bat at Violet's shoulder playfully, poking fun at her unusual demeanour. Violet internally screams at the mention of the Nazi police, but forces her face into a smile.
Sorry, don't mind me, I'm just not feeling myself today.
Oh, hun, it's all right. Those cramps can be awful, can't they?
Catherine gives her a hug, and Violet physically melts into her friend and holds just a bit too long. Over Violet's shoulder, Catherine pulls a face at the others, all confused by her sudden mood swing. Liesel gives Violet a playful shove.
Just don't make a habit of it, or word will get around that Violet Fisher's going soft.
Lisa winks and turns the corner into a classroom. The group of girls all laugh and smile at her, but Violet can't manage to fake it again. She turns into her own classroom, the next door down, and sits down silently. A few doors down, Elisabeth finds her seat in Frau Becker's classroom and follows the same protocol as she does each day. Set down the book bag, unload the books, arrange the pencils neatly along the desk, act preoccupied to avoid the attention of the other girls. For the first time in her life, she thanks her lucky stars she isn't more popular. One of her pencils rolls off the edge of her desk, and the tip breaks off. Elisabeth grabs the pencil and walks to the sharpener on the wall. Head down, she doesn't notice another girl walking the same direction until it's too late. Elisabeth bumps directly into Cornelia. Her books tumble out of her arms and spill to the floor.
Idiot, watch where you're going.
Elisabeth drops quickly to the floor and starts to gather the scattered books and papers. She sees a small photograph amongst the mess and tucks it into her palm before she can think better of it. She stands and hands the books and papers back to Cornelia.
Sorry.
Don't make it a habit, Rags.
Cornelia rolls her eyes, looks Elisabeth up and down once as she squirms, then pivots on her heel and returns to her doting friends.
Nell, come on, we saved you a seat.
You girls are too sweet.
Fully forgotten again, Elisabeth walks to the sharpener and sneaks a peek at the photo. It's a family portrait featuring a much younger Cornelia, her very distinguished-looking parents, and her young brother. Everything screams the perfect upper-class family, except the brother. There's an unusual look about him that Elisabeth can't quite place. Her eyes widen as she realises. The boy had severe developmental delays. She quickly flips the small photo over again, hiding it under her sleeve. The boy's very existence was looked down upon by the Nazis as a vermin needing extermination. And if there's one thing Cornelia's family liked to make clear, it was that they fully supported the Nazis. Which means they likely didn't want anyone to know about him. Elisabeth always assumed Cornelia was an only child. Her mind raced with this unexpected information about her foe. She glances over at Cornelia, mindlessly chattering away with her minions. After a moment, Cornelia feels the eyes on her, and she snaps her gaze up to meet Elisabeth's. Cornelia crinkles her eyebrows and looks away, but can't help but look back over her shoulder for another glance. Elisabeth, not quite knowing why she dares to be so bold, whips out the photograph from her sleeve and flashes it in Cornelia's direction. Cornelia's eyes grow wide with panic in a way Elisabeth has never seen before. She jumps up from her desk abruptly, grabs her own pencil and marches over to Elisabeth. An uncomfortable, silent pause that feels like a year goes by before Elisabeth slowly passes the photo back to Cornelia.
Thank you.
She means it. Her eyes flick over Elisabeth's face, attempting to read her, both girls seeing one another for the first time. On Elisabeth's nod, the status quo shifts. Cornelia shakes herself out of her fear and plasters her typical golden smile back on her face. She grabs Elisabeth's wrist roughly and parades her back over to the group of girls.
Come on, Elisabeth. Sit with us.
The girls are truly baffled by the acknowledgement and inclusion of Elisabeth, but Cornelia cuts the girls a harsh look.
I've been meaning to talk to her about my party.
She turns back to Elisabeth and practically spits out her invitation.
It's next Saturday. You should come.
Later that afternoon, the school bell rings and a sea of teens spill out into the hallways. Elisabeth and Violet find each other in the hall and start walking towards the exit, eager to be home. Suddenly, Elisabeth sees a familiar mop of auburn hair in the crowd of students. It's Ansel. She pulls Violet off to the side of the hall.
Wait for me a moment.
Elizabeth quickly pinches her cheeks for colour, musses her hair, straightens her shoulders, arches her back, and then whirls in the direction of Ansel. Violet looks at her like she's gone mad.
What the hell are you doing?
Shut up, Vi.
Violet watches as she struts towards Ansel, adding an unfamiliar, over-exaggerated sway to her hips and tossing her hair in a manner that makes Violet chuckle. She shakes her head as she watches Elizabeth walk straight past Ansel, pretending not to see him.
Elizabeth! Hello!
Oh, Ansel. Hello. I didn't see you there.
I was meaning to ask you something.
Darling, I'm afraid it'll have to wait. I'm in a terrible rush.
She kisses him dramatically on each cheek, then books it towards the school exit. Ansel watches her go in shock, mouth agape. Violet hustles after her sister and catches her at the bottom of the steps.
What was that?
I have no idea. Can we go, please?
The girls pick up their pace, crossing the courtyard to their bicycles.
We're supposed to be having an ordinary day, Elisa. This isn't a game.
It's not my fault. Besides, let's be honest, there is absolutely nothing ordinary about today. I have something to tell you about my good friend Cornelia. Come on.
The girls peel away into the street towards home. Elisabeth glances over her shoulder at the school. Both Cornelia and Ansel watch her go. Fritz kneels alone in the small private chapel, available only to clergy. He weeps and stares down at his palms. The sleeves of his robes are pushed back, revealing dozens of tiny fresh cuts littered amongst old scars across his wrists and forearms. Fritz's head rolls back, the tears stream down his face. He hears the sound of footsteps approach. And quickly shoves his sleeves over the cuts on his wrists and wipes his eyes, attempting to compose himself. Fritz bows his head, pretends to finish his silent prayer, makes a sign of the cross, and turns to see who has joined him. It's KARL. Fritz stands hastily, clasps his hands tightly behind his back, and clears his throat gruffly.
Your Grace, my apologies. I didn't realize.
You seem distressed.
Oh no, it's nothing.
Come now, what's troubling you?
My heart is heavy from too many things these days, Your Grace.
We face difficult times, yes. But God has brought us through many hardships before. He is still with us.
It seems that everywhere I turn, there is darkness. It feels challenging to prevent it from entering my own spirit at times.
I see. Is that the reason for these?
KARL gently reaches for Fritz's arm, pushes back his sleeve to reveal the cuts. Fritz stiffens at the touch and exposure of his secret.
There are many ways to purify the soul as repentance that don't involve harming yourself, Fritz.
Fritz's eyes flick up to meet KARL's warm, compassion-filled ones at the sound of his own name. He raises his eyebrows.
You don't mind if we're familiar, do you? You can call me KARL.
Of course, KARL. I just feel I fear the darkness that threatens my mind requires a firmer hand than fasting, so that I may be fully present for the Lord.
Faith is required to see beyond the here and now. This darkness you fear will change. We mustn't let short-sighted fears drive us to extremes, particularly those that damage the purity of the body of the Lord gave us.
What if it never changes, KARL?
We must trust that His will be done, in His divine timing, and pray together for peace in the meantime.
KARL places a gentle hand on Fritz's shoulder.
I'm here for you, Fritz.
Thank you.
They look at one another in silence for a moment. Fritz slowly lifts his hand and places it over KARL's, ever so lightly. Electricity ripples through his fingers at the touch. He pulls his hand away.
I should go.
KARL gives Fritz a warm smile, then turns and kneels before the altar. Fritz takes a few steps backwards, envying KARL's inner peace. He turns and exits the chapel, then leans against the wall on the other side of the door, catching his breath. Home from school, Elisabeth and Violet walk up the path to their little cottage and lean their bikes against the side of the house. Violet hovers her hand over the front door knob for just a moment. Her breath catches in her throat. Maybe, just maybe, Maria will be waiting for them inside, making tea in the kitchen like she normally would at this hour. They push through the front door and look around. Empty again. Elisabeth trudges inside, tossing her book bag on the chair. Violet turns to close the front door, but sees a delivery boy trotting up their front path.
Violet and Elisabeth Fisher?
She nods. He hands a canvas shopping bag to Violet, then turns on his heel and sprints off. She watches him depart, looks both ways down the residential street, and closes the door. Elisabeth snatches the bag from her and empties the contents onto the kitchen table. A roast chicken and rice. And a note. Elisabeth reads out loud.
I won't make it for dinner. Searching for the answers to our questions, love, Fritzy. Well, at least we know he's trying.
Do we know that? We still don't know anything except that Fritz knows more than he's telling us.
Well, yes, but he's our cousin and is clearly trying to protect us. That's what adults do.
Unsatisfied, Violet walks over to the edge of her mother's studio. The door is open, but the room is mostly dark. Still standing on the entryway line, she peers through the window. The nosy neighbour, Mrs. Guterman, is in her chair, staring back at her with eagle eyes. Violet stomps over and pulls the curtains shut, then walks over to switch on the lamp on the desk.
What are you doing, Violet? We aren't supposed to be in there.
And Mama's supposed to be home safe with us. I think it's clear the rules don't apply anymore.
Elisabeth blinks as this realisation sinks in. She tiptoes her way to the art studio with reverence.
I suppose if she left us any clues as to where she's gone, they would be here.
Precisely.
The girls carefully comb through their mother's studio. They sift through desk drawers, flip through the many paintings stacked against the walls, even look underneath the desk and shelves for hidden panels. Nothing jumps out as significant. As Violet looks round her, hoping to be inspired for another spot to check, her gaze lingers on a mirror in the corner of the room. In the mirror is the reflection of the Cubist-style painting of a man Maria had been working on the last morning they saw her. Violet leans in close to the mirror and whispers to herself.
It can't be.
All she can see is the face of the soldier that they killed, clear as day, not in the Cubist style at all, but almost like a snapshot of his face. She gasps and spins round, clutching her chest as the memory of the kill overwhelms her. The bullet that grazed her leg, the light fading from the soldier's eyes, his blood on her hands.
What is it? What did you find?
Violet runs over to the painting, only to find the Cubist art. The soldier's face nowhere to be seen amongst the abstract shapes.
I thought I saw...
She blinks a few times, trying to clear her head.
Nothing.
Violet turns back to the same desk drawers she's looked through twice already. Elisabeth glances from her sister to the painting, deep worry lines etched into her brow. The Schadenfreude bar is a sea of browns, black and grey uniforms, full of crude men shout-talking at one another, clinking glasses and laughing. Cigarette smoke hovers around everyone's heads. The front section of the bar is what you'd expect, with taps, bar stools, small tables and a few bartenders rustling about. Most of the patrons, however, seem to be making their way towards the back of the bar, where forbidden big band swing music faintly reverberates from behind the grubby-looking door. Soldiers trickle through, beers in hand, into what feels like another planet. Rows of chairs and small tables face a stage, lined with a deep burgundy curtain. A 6-piece band sits off to the side, playing boisterous jazz and swing music. Behind the curtain, Iris peeps out from the shadows. The rows of seats fill quickly with the men. Iris has ditched her pared-down blacks, now dressed to entertain in a silky gown, a fur wrap, and red lips. As she looks back over her shoulder, she's approached by HUGO, the same large man she'd been with the night Maria dropped off the posters. HUGO's in a good mood, armed with a bottle of liquor and a glass already filled. Iris plucks a small pill box from her bra and opens it, popping a pill in her mouth. HUGO passes her the bottle. She exchanges it for the pill box. Gracefully, she lifts the bottle to meet his glass for their nightly toast. Let me kill every last one of these pricks, HUGO.
But not before we take all their money.
Cash in and kill.
Yeah.
They clink and drink. HUGO takes the bottle from Iris and gives her a nod as she smooths her hair and adjusts her dress, ready to perform. And maybe a prize just for me. The music starts and she steps out from behind the curtain to a thunderous applause. Iris acts meek and surprised by the response, then waves them off with a giggle and air kisses.
Hello, my darlings.
As the beat drops, Iris begins to sing. Mesmerising and totally in control, she sings her siren song and weaves between the tables. She touches men's shoulders, runs her fingers through their hair, and even gives a playful slap or a finger wag at the handsy ones. The crowd is completely enraptured by her performance. She continually circles back on one particularly handsome soldier and gives him a wink as she makes her way back to the stage and moves on to the next song on her set list. Iris sketches off the stage and into the small dressing room off the side, giving Hugo a high five on her way.
New file was dropped off for you.
She plops down onto her vanity seat and takes a sip of water and catches her breath for a moment. She grabs the tube of lipstick and reapplies, not a line out of place. Finished with her touch-ups, Iris tosses aside a few stray tubes of creams and powders and grabs a light yellow envelope, lying on the vanity. She pulls out a photograph and scans the image. It's the handsome soldier she'd been flirting with during the show. She tilts her head and gives a little smirk before planting a bright red kiss on the soldier's face. She stuffs the photo back in the envelope and onto the table, stands, straightens her dress, and then runs back onto the stage for her next set. After the show, Iris and the handsome soldier walk arm in arm along the river. Dimly glowing street lamps light their way along the cobblestones. A low fog has settled over the ground, casting a cloud-like ambiance.
You really never took a single lesson? I don't believe it.
Not one. I was born with this voice.
Seems like you were born with a hell of a lot more than just a voice.
He stops to pull her close to him, moving his hands over her body. As they linger on the edge of the water, Iris pulls away and offers him a bottle of liquor they'd brought from the bar. First, drink.
Can't believe the owner of the Schadenfreude just lets you do as you please with his bar. You are a sneaky minx, aren't you?
Aren't I nice to share? He winks at her as he takes it and lazily tilts his head back to take a long swig. He doesn't see her coming, much less have time to scream as she deftly whips her knife from her pocket and slices his throat. The soldier's eyes widen in shock, and the bottle falls from his frozen hands. Exactly as she planned, Iris catches the bottle smoothly, like a cat. She dances him towards the river's edge, the hand holding the bottle wrapped around his waist, the other locked onto the knife still lodged in his throat. When his heels are at the edge, she leans in close to whisper in his ear, "Bye, baby." She takes a step back, still holding the knife. He begins to tip backwards. The knife is released as the weight of his body crashes backwards into the water. A sly, satisfied grin creeps onto Iris's face as she watches the body float down the river and over the edge of a small waterfall. She wipes the knife on the inside of her coat, then pours the liquor over it to sanitize before giving it a final wipe. She snaps the knife shut and tucks it back into her belt, ties her coat close, and gives one last, almost longing look in the direction of the body, as if she wishes she could do it all over again. Fritz sits on a bench at a U-Bahn station platform, waiting for the train. He eyes his watch. It's midnight, and then glances up and down the platform. It's mostly empty, save for an elderly woman and her caretaker sitting quietly a few benches away, and 3 drunk young men chattering amongst themselves on the far end of the row. The train arrives at the platform, screeching to a halt as the doors slide open. Fritz enters. The car is nearly empty, save for the little old lady and her companion on the far end. Thankfully, those drunks picked a different one. Fritz sits on the far side so he can see the doors, and places his Bible in the vacant seat next to him. He's at ease, yet alert. The doors close. The train halts at the next stop. A couple boards Fritz's train car. He moves to grab his Bible and stand, gesturing to offer the couple his seats.
Please, take these seats.
I will stand, as long as you can take her confession.
They all smile and laugh as the woman sits next to Fritz. He meets each of their eyes with a small nod. The passwords have been exchanged. She smiles up to Fritz sweetly and whispers. Her energy doesn't match her smiling face.
Fuck is so important that you couldn't ask her. We are not amused.
Neither am I. My sparrow has flown away and I have no idea where.
The woman's face changes slightly. She quickly corrects back to a neutral expression, but the change was long enough that Fritz can tell she was not aware about Maria's disappearance. They stare at each other silently.
I must know where the sparrow flew, and I must know soon. This is my stop. May God bless you both.
He stands as the train stops and walks off without looking back. The doors close on the couple's furrowed brows as the train departs. Think you have what it takes to decipher the coded letter? Visit our website's evidence section for clues to help you follow along with the mystery. Wicked Dames is an independent, self-funded production. If you enjoyed the show and would like to support our cast and crew, we invite you to donate the amount of your choice on our website at alisonhaselden.com/wicked-dames. This show contains explicit content and may not be suitable for all listeners. A list of all content warnings is included in the show notes of each episode for your reference.